Welcome to the Curator's Corner on Museum Monday on the second week of the virtual pilgrimage. I am Sarah Bone, a park ranger at Manzanar National Historic Site. I am also a collateral duty museum assistant. In the National Park Service, one of the ways we preserve America's stories is to preserve the items that represent them. We are grateful that many people have chosen to donate their family items to Manzanar to preserve the past and educate the present and future generations. This week's theme is pre-war and forced removal. We'll be exploring items donated by Grace Keiko Nakano Seto in 2012. These simple pieces of paper reveal aspects of her father Chokichi's experience being forcibly removed to Manzanar. And while every story is unique, common elements invite us to contemplate what others went through during those years and the decades to follow. Chokichi Nakano was born in Japan in 1902. Ruby Kimi Uchida was born in Florin, California in 1911. They were married in Florin in 1933 and moved to San Francisco, where Chokichi was a wholesale grocery traveling salesman. Their first child, Grace Keiko Nakano, was born there in 1935. By 1940, the family had moved to Los Angeles and had two more children, Walter Susumu and Eleanor Kimiko. They lived without a car in a rented duplex in Boyle Heights. Comfortably bilingual, Chokichi started a new job in Los Angeles as a wholesale grocery assistant and importer-exporter in 1937. Grace remembers he did accounting for the company. After the U.S. entered World War II, the small company based in Japan for which Chokichi worked was no longer able to stay in business, and he lost his job. Late in December 1941, Chokichi went to the police station to turn in his camera, which was required of all Nisei. Guns, knives, and shortwave radios were also considered contraband. Chokichi registered for the draft on February 16, 1942. President Franklin D. Roosevelt would sign Executive Order 9066 just 3 days later. Like many others, Chokichi would have to decide what he could do for his family during this unparalleled time. Although Chokichi came to the U.S. alone in 1916 and had no family here, his wife was born in Florin and had a large farming family. Not knowing what would happen, he wanted to be with Ruby's extended family to move into the unknown together. According to Grace, her father sold his insurance policy in order to afford the trip to Florin. It was from Florin with their extended family that the government forced them to Manzanar. The Nakano family wore these tags as they left the Uchida family farm brimming with a bumper crop that would not be harvested. Perhaps due to his bilingual abilities, Chokichi, seen in the center of this Ansel Adams photograph, was elected block manager of Block 30, where the family lived. He also served on the board of directors of the Manzanar Cooperative Enterprises. Grace remembers being told not to play in her father's office. She could tell he was important and that others respected him. Looking back, Grace is amazed how her father, an accountant, could take on leadership roles during such difficult times. During their time at Manzanar, Ruby and Chokichi welcomed their fourth child, Carolyn Hiroko, into the family. Finding a home and life for his growing family after Manzanar seems to have been a priority for Chokichi. He left Manzanar to investigate opportunities a number of times. In 1943, he traveled to Chicago on co-op business, stopping in Kansas City and Denver to look at future possibilities. In 1945, Chokichi visited Los Angeles, but even though they considered Los Angeles their home, there was nothing to return to. Wanting to help his father-in-law get back into farming, Chokichi tried an opportunity to be a sharecropper in Berlin, Maryland. But when they arrived, they found they were to be farm laborers on the weekend farm of a wealthy man from Washington, D.C. Grace remembers her family's disappointment as they settled into a home without electricity or water, and she and her brother tried to settle into a new school where they endured racial taunts. The farm owner refused to allow the family to seek other opportunities. Chokichi hoped to find a better life at Seabrook Farms in New Jersey. The vegetable processing plant employed a diverse community of people who were trying to rebuild their lives after the war. The Nakano family had to sneak out of the Berlin farm. Seabrook would be their home until 1950. Both Ruby and Chokichi worked, and the children were sent to the company's childcare and to school. When Grace was in 9th grade, her father was again forced to make a decision. His job at the truck shop at Seabrook was no longer year-round, and he took this opportunity to move back to Los Angeles. Grace remembers how important his children's education was to their father. She doesn't know how the family could afford it, but they took an airplane from Philadelphia to Los Angeles so they wouldn't miss any school. The family was excited for the unique opportunity to ride an airplane, even though the ride was very cold and everyone got motion sickness. But they didn't miss any school. Chokichi and Ruby Nakano started a grocery business near Watts in Los Angeles. The whole family was responsible for keeping it running from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. 7 days a week. Chokichi Nakano, the only member of his family not born in the U.S., naturalized as a U.S. citizen in 1955. The family kept the store until a year after Chokichi's early death in 1961. All 4 Nakano children graduated from college. These simple documents give us a window into the Nakano family's unforeseen journey. Despite many circumstances beyond their control and navigating a time of intense prejudice towards Japanese Americans, Chokichi and Ruby Nakano made a way for their family. In Manzanar, Chokichi served as a community leader. Unlike many people who left camp as they entered, with only what they could carry, somehow Chokichi kept his Manzanar papers for the rest of his life, never knowing that they would help thousands of visitors learn about camp life through his experiences. We are beyond grateful to Grace and her family for preserving and ultimately donating her father's archives. Thank you for joining us for this week's Curator's Corner. You can learn more about Manzanar National Historic Site through our website, our Facebook and Instagram accounts, and our YouTube channel. If you have any questions, please contact me, Sarah Bone, via email.